Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly O'Horo, and this is Adaptable, Behavior Explained. Hi there. Thanks for tuning in today to Adaptable. My name is Kelly O'Horo, and I'm your host. And I created this podcast to share with people who may not know why people act the way they act and help people to better understand their adaptations to stress and the environment and, their upbringing. And today I'm going to talk to you about grief because this is a topic that really doesn't escape anybody. We all end up grieving. We end up grieving things that we've gone through, things that we've lost, and I think that most people don't understand that grieving is a part of life. And so hopefully I can bring some insights into this topic for you and help you to move through moments of grief if you happen to be going through them, or perhaps better understand someone that you care about who is struggling with something related to grief. Grief is a deeply human experience. And like I said, it touches every one of us, whether we've lost a loved one or a relationship, a dream, or even a part of ourselves because of something that has happened. Grief is something that we all carry. But here's what's often misunderstood, that it isn't linear. It doesn't follow a tidy path. It's not over and done with in a certain amount of time, and it sure doesn't look the same for everyone. We all have different histories. We have different epigenetics, our family's histories. We have different resilience and emotional capacities depending on how we were raised, how we were loved, our attachment styles. There are so many variables that determine and impact the way that we grieve or the way that we compartmentalize, or even end up dissociating or fracture because of grief. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the emotional landscape of grief, some challenges and some common myths, and we're going to draw from the work of some of my favorite researchers on emotions, which are Brene Brown and Jaak Panksepp, to better talk about and understand what's really happening, not just in our emotions and our hearts, but our brains when we grieve, because there's a lot of physiology involved. So what is grief? Grief is more than sadness. It's a full body, full contact emotion. There is a full heart response to loss, and it can show up as anguish. It can show up as numbness, anger, confusion, guilt, and sometimes even relief. In the book, The Atlas of the Heart, which if you don't have it, I highly recommend picking that up. It's Brene Brown's most recent book. She talks about grief as a cluster of emotions, and it includes sadness, longing, and even yearning. There's a deep ache for something that's no longer there with us. And it's not just about death. A lot of times people think that grief is just about loss like death, and that's just not true. We grieve breakups. We grieve job losses. I can remember when I was engaged to be married, and I was with this guy for 5 years. And I can remember after we broke up, I cried and laid on the couch for like a whole week. I barely could eat. Like, it was awful. It was so much loss. And it wasn't just loss of the relationship. It was loss of the traditions we'd developed. It was loss of the family things that we did together with our families and all of the things that we had developed in relationship. And so it was a lot. And it was just a breakup in my early 20s, but it was terrible. We grieve over things like job losses, whether they're by design, where we want them to be different, or because they happened in a blindsiding way. We lose our senses of identity, our hopes and plans for what we wanted to do. Health changes create grief. What's wrong with me? I have deficiencies or defectiveness, and I'm not as capable of doing things that I once was. Or, I've even had to help people work on grief with different diet restrictions because of, gut issues that they have, and they can't eat certain foods, and there's grief over that. And so we really underestimate how much we all have to deal with grief. And it's not just about the loss of somebody. It can be loss of identity, grief over our feelings of safety if we've been harmed. And so often in my work, I witness people needing to grieve even their childhoods for not getting to be a child, not getting to have time that is without stress or overwhelm or strife. And they were never able to have a normal, healthy childhood. So we have to grieve that we didn't get that stage of development. And that's hard. And the thing is grief is the price of love. We can't be in love with self or others without the risk of grief. And it's a reflection of what mattered. It tells us that something was important to us and we don't have it anymore. And the truth is that grief doesn't follow a script. There's some popular stages of grief, like, the 5 stages of grief model. And it can be helpful because it can normalize grief, and it can say, we all will fit into different parts of this at different times. But it was never, meant to be prescriptive. It was never meant to be like a one size fits all. And if you're grieving, then you're in this or this stage. That's not really how it works, because people don't move through stages in order because of the histories like I talked about, or their different emotional resilience, or their support systems. And some people skip different stages of grief entirely. I was once working with a patient, and he had a wife that was sick. And, he started grieving her well before she passed away. And, I remember him saying to me, "I don't understand why I'm not falling apart." And I said, "You've been dealing with losing her for a long time, because she, her death was imminent." And he thought something was wrong with him, that he wasn't, a huge mess. And I said, "You've been dealing with this little by little for quite some time." And so that helped him to better understand what was going on for him. And other people revisit different stages over and over, depending on what happens. I can think of an example of somebody that I know who lost a parent when she was really young. And so at different stages of her children's development, things would be activated because she would then be reminded of what she went through at the same age. And when we have this mirror of our offspring that says, "Oh my gosh, this is what life should look like if we didn't go through this really hard thing," and then we were not able to have had it that way, it's a big, huge, glaring reminder of what didn't get to happen. And so then it can kick up in us like, oh, there's this whole thing I haven't even revisited or seen related to my own grief. And so if you're going through something, you need to be thinking about the fact that grief is not a straight line. It's more of a spiral or a wave or a loop, and it doesn't really match for anybody else. We can't compare why is this person responding to this in a different way than I would. And there's physical reasons for the way we feel with grief. When we think about the brain, there's a grief and panic circuit, and there's a separation, distress in the system. The brain lights up, and it shows us that there's physiological difference in our bodies and brains when we are activated by that disconnection. It's panic. And so we're going to talk deeper about the brain. Neuroscientist Jaak Panksepp, he identified what we call the panic or grief system. And basically it's hardwired. It's the emotional circuit in our mammalian brain that activates when we experience separation from someone that we're bonded to. And this system is responsible for distress cries in infants and that ache of heartbreak, the deep yearning for someone and that anguish we feel after their loss. And so when this system is activated, we can feel panic, we can feel protest, we can eventually feel despair. And it's not just emotional. So if you're judging yourself for acting a certain way or feeling a certain way for too long, this is a neurological function. This is not a decision. This is a biological aspect of being a human. And understanding this can help us to see that grief isn't weakness. It's biology. It's love trying to find its way home. It's us trying to sort the empty space that lives in our hearts. And what do we do with that empty space in a loss of someone or something that was so deeply important to us? So we talked a little bit about, that nonlinear nature of grief. It doesn't move in a straight line. Like I said, one day you might feel okay and good and normal. And then the next day you hear a song or there's a smell and it brings pain rushing back or memories rushing back. And that doesn't mean that you're regressing. It doesn't mean you're all of a sudden not better. It means that you're human. Brene Brown reminds us that grief often includes this longing or a deep emotional pull toward what we've lost. And that longing can resurface at different times at our life, depending on what's going on, or at unexpected times. I think about when someone loses someone, let's say you lost your father and maybe you didn't lose him as a child, but you lost him before you got married. Now, who's going to walk you down the aisle, or who's going to be part of some of those moments that are traditionally for a father figure in your life? These all become reminders of what we don't get to have because of the loss that we experienced. And healing isn't about forgetting. It's about remembering with less pain. So maybe at some point you do enough work, and we'll talk a little bit about that. You can remember moments with your loved ones or in experiences that you had, and you can remember the positive sides of things as you've healed through some of your pain. So if you're grieving, give yourself permission to feel what you need to feel without judging it, without stuffing it, without thinking that you're supposed to be at a different place because it's been a certain amount of time and you knew someone else that didn't have the same effect. Make sure that you give yourself room and that you lean on people who love you, if you have people in your life that you trust, so that you're not doing it alone. Grief is not a one size fits all. We all grieve differently. And so some people cry, some people go quiet, some people need rituals. We had a friend that lost their pet, and they created a bit of a memorial in their home with pictures and other mementos that reminded them of their pet. So they had somewhere they could go and feel more connected to their pet. Others use distraction or need distraction. In Atlas of the Heart, Brené Brown talks about how grief is really personal. And when we try to compare or to rank our grief, it only creates more disconnection to yourself and to others. So we want to stop saying, I wouldn't have reacted that way, or I wouldn't do it this way. And instead approach someone with curiosity. What do they need right now? What do you need right now? Or how can I support you? Or what does support look like? Would it help to talk or just sit together? I like the phrase with the 3 H's, do you want help? Do you want a hug? Or do you just want to be heard? And you can ask those questions to let someone else determine what it is that they do need in order to be more supportive. Because grief is not a problem to fix. It's a process to witness and to be present for. And when we can do that with somebody, we can really develop connection and safety and trust. And oftentimes when people are going through something that is painful, such as a loss, it's not the loss that becomes the worst part of it for people with EMDR therapy. Oftentimes it's how they didn't have support after the fact. And the people that were meant to show up for them didn't do a very good job of it. And so they end up with this collateral betrayal related to their grief experience that is not helpful. And so when you think about needing connection, it's really important to know that you deserve that connection and you are worthy of that connection. And so please try not to isolate and hold yourself away from others who care about you, because it doesn't serve you and it prolongs your suffering. It doesn't allow you to heal and grow. Grief, there's a path to growth through grief, and it changes us. It can deepen our empathy. It can help us to clarify our values, and it can remind us of what truly matters, especially if we've lost someone. But growth doesn't mean that the pain disappears, and it means that we learn to carry it with more grace, more peace, and not a constant reminder of the pain. So if you are grieving, know this, you're definitely not alone. Everybody around you has had to grieve something, and you're not doing it wrong, and you don't have to rush your healing. Grief is love in another form. It can move through you, and let it do that. Let it move through you. Let it teach you. Let it soften you. But mostly recognize that it will pass, and it will hold a different stance if you allow for the room to let it be what it needs to be and not avoid it. And recognize that there's even grief over having to grieve. There's even grief over the powerlessness that you have to do it, and there's no way around it. And that can be frustrating, and we can have all those emotions I talked about when we are going through the grief experience for that reason. So that's all I have for you today related to grief. We could talk on and on about it, but hopefully this is just a little nugget. Grief is messy, it's sacred, and it's deeply personal. And so hopefully this resonated with you, or you can share this with someone that might be grieving something and be helpful in one way or another. But if you found it helpful, please subscribe or like the episode and leave us some comments about anything that we can do to improve that. And if there's another episode we do, if there's things you'd like to hear about. You can also connect with me through my social media, Kelly O'Horo. So thank you again for tuning in. And if you are grieving, I wish you peace. I wish you the sacred space to allow for what feelings you need to experience. And until next time, don't forget to lead with love. It'll never steer you wrong.